See, the whole idea, now figure this out, guys. Track with me on this. This is very important. If you believe the gospel is God loved the world so much that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish but have everlasting life, and that's all you say, and you don't preach the full gospel, you just take that one out of context, what is implied in all that, without the rest, is that really what you need to do is just accept him. And if you'll just accept him, then you can be saved. And if you'll just invite Christ into your heart, you don't have to go to hell, and you can be saved forever. Now, the problem with that is this. It kind of presents God as on the cross just demonstrating to you how much he loves you, and he is going to pretend like you didn't do it, and he is going to act like he's forgotten it. You get the idea that forgiveness is based on pretending it didn't happen and acting like you forgot it. Now, if you think that's the gospel, now remember my point? You live the gospel that you think it is. You think it is. If you think that's the gospel, then how are you going to try to forgive people? You're going to try to pretend they didn't do it. What's the problem with that? They did it. Not only that, they're probably doing it again and again. And by the way, how are you doing it forgetting it? It doesn't work. And the reason it's powerless is because that's not the gospel. The power of the gospel is this. You did do it, and he knows you did it, and he has seen it, and he hasn't forgotten it. He has put it on his Son, and he's actually done something with it. And every time you bring it up, he can come back with this. I know you did it. I've seen it. There's the blood. I did something with it. It's forgiven. Now, if that works for me, forgiveness for me, and I believe that's the gospel, and he's my high priest, and he did that as my high priest. He made purification for sin. He's purified me from sin. Then what does that mean in my relationships with everybody else? That means on the same basis, I can forgive my wife. Or I can forgive my son or my daughter. Or young men, you can forgive your dad or your sisters or your brothers or anybody. You can forgive anyone on the basis of that. You don't have to pretend it didn't happen, probably happened. You can say, it did happen, but there's the blood. That's what's in heaven. That's the truth. The Spirit lets me see that the blood was shed for me. The Spirit lets me see that his blood was shed for you. And so when you sin, instead of looking on this side of the veil at your sin, I take your sin to the other side of the veil, and what's the first thing I see? I see the blood for me. And when I see the blood for me, I want you to have that blessing. And so I see the blood for you, and I say, I forgive. Let's see. This time it'll be Perry. Did Chad last? Perry, now it's you. Say, if Perry does something to me, I can say, I forgive Perry. It's not that I'm going to try not to remember it. I will probably remember it. But here's how I look at it. If everything belongs to Christ, every time it comes back to me is just giving me practice at believing the gospel. Because every time it comes to mind, it calls me to go to the Father and to look at the mercy seat and to look at the blood. And I can look at the mercy seat and the blood and I can say, he made purification for my sins. He made purification for Perry's sin. Perry, I forgive you. Well, that's the least I can do. And that's the least you can do with your wives, man. Yeah, they've repeatedly sinned against you. You've got your list. That list is meant to give you practice at actually believing the gospel and doing something with it. Living. You've been raised up with Christ to live, anchored in Jesus Christ, actually doing what you believe, actually not being merely hearers only, but doers of the Word of God.